A very good morning and welcome to the program. The only way to start your day, Good Morning Kenya. It's Entertainment Thursday and it's definitely entertaining so far. My name is Samuel Njoroge and welcome to this program. The hashtag on Twitter is Good Morning Kenya and the SMS line is 22162. Begin with the initials GMK for your voice and feedback to count in this very discussion. And this morning finds us discussing issues to do with special needs education, most specifically inclusive education for all. I've got a panel of a lady and a gentleman from the Kenya Institute of Special Education. I'm talking about Director Timothy Mutiso and lecturer Grace Jambi. I will allow them to say a little bit about themselves for purposes of introductions and, you know, getting viewers familiar with you. I would like to begin with you, Timothy.
Good morning. My name is Timothy Wamboa, the current director of Kenya Institute of Special Education, and I'm happy to be in this station today.
Great.
At least to say a few words about inclusive education in Kenya.
Over to you, Grace.
Thank you. I'm Grace Jambi, a lecturer at Kenya Institute of Special Education, and more so in the area of intellectually different. And I'm glad to be here this morning. We're going to discuss about inclusive education and in support of our the SGDs, which is really advocating for inclusive education in the whole world.
In the whole world. And one of the reasons why you're seated here this morning is because there's an upcoming conference, and it will be the second of its kind. Let's begin by doing a stock take from what we were able to gather and identify during the first conference, and I'm talking about the KISA conference on inclusive education. Let me begin with you, Timothy.
Well, the first conference was held in 2016. And in such conferences, you get ideas, you get to listen to papers from specialists. And from that particular conference, we were able to come up with a way forward in terms of what was then the practice and what needed to be adopted to improve on inclusive education. So we're going to build up on what we gathered from that particular conference. When we do this new conference, we'll be saying, taking stock and finding out, did we achieve, what did we achieve, what were we able to adopt, and what is new.
What is new?
Yes.
Absolutely. And when you compare the two, Grace, when you look at last year, and 2016, and now we're going to have another one. So many people presented various papers, touched on various issues to do with special needs education.
Yes.
What are some of the priority areas for our context right here in Kenya?
Okay, thank you. With our previous conference, we were focusing on the threats and challenges in implementation of SDGs in relation to inclusive education. And the participants came up with very good ideas, and they also brought out clearly what the kind of challenges that are out there. And these also have now made us think of coming up with another conference that now where we don't want to call on the participants. Okay, we noticed or they brought out about the challenges. Then what is it that can be done in order now to overcome these challenges? And this is why we are focusing more so on the principle. You know, the SDGs are focusing on one principle. Yes. No one is left out. And so we want now our stakeholders to come on board. And as we looked at those challenges in the previous conference, what is it then now, which are the threats, what is it that we can bring on board this time round so that we help persons with special needs,
exactly.
And that they are included in all areas, and in particular in education. So currently, we are aware our government is focusing on curriculum reforms, and there's one of our key themes about the curriculum reforms. So when it comes to now our current conference and the situation on right now, we are calling on stakeholders to tell us how can we move forward based on what they came out in the previous conference.
In the previous conference,
yes.
There has been constant reference to the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals.
Yes.
To what extent shall we involve stakeholders in coming up with conversations that are going to guarantee sustainability of the efforts that we will undertake to make sure that we promote inclusive education for special needs?
If you look at the theme for this year, our theme is access, equity, quality, and opportunities, availability of opportunities for all. So if you look at the SDG 4, it's talking about universal education for all.
For all, yeah.
And in this particular case, we're dealing specifically with inclusive education. The beauty of this conference also is that it's international. We have participants from the East African region. We have the keynote speakers, one from USA, one from Australia, and one of our own in the Ministry of Education. We'll be looking at what are the best practices in these different countries. Look at what models are available. And I think from all that, from all the papers which will be presented, we'll be able to pick out what is sustainable, what can be adopted and be sustained without too much rigors. So basically, I think by the end of this particular conference, from the best practices from all the participants, and we are talking about people who have really read and have a lot of research done on inclusive education, I believe by the end of the conference, we'll be able to pick out things which can be sustained in different countries. Of course, we'll be checking on what model like works in Australia on inclusive education, what model works in USA, and see how we can adopt into our country so that we are able to sustain.
To sustain.
Yes.
And talking about models, we've had emerging issues and trends, especially when it comes to the conversation on special needs education. And most recently, there is a school of thought that believes we shouldn't have special schools. Let the children integrate together. Let's normalize the environment and let's not make it an issue of novelty and speciality. Is that an issue that will find itself being discussed in the upcoming conference? And if so, how will it be handled?
Well, it's an issue that we have also thought about. And actually, we have already people who are presenting papers in relation to that. And when people talk about inclusive education, there are several ways of inclusive. But we are saying, as we have called upon our stakeholders to bring on board the methods, the approaches that can be followed in inclusive education,
yes,
we're looking at the inclusiveness in the way that we'll be open-minded. Because as people who have been in the field of special needs education, and particularly Kenya Institute of Special Education, we have spearheaded, especially the teacher education. And we are aware there are certain levels or there are certain persons with special needs who may not really fit in the inclusive setup.
Yes.
And this is why we are calling upon stakeholders. Which other approaches can we use? We will go inclusive. And inclusive is not only putting learners in one class. There are other approaches of inclusive. Because with a conducive environment, they can be included or inclusive can take place. But for those specific cases whereby they cannot be in the inclusive setup, where should they be? I know most people are saying we don't have to have special schools.
Yes.
But we may not have necessarily special school, but we can have special setups. That these learners, yes, they are in the inclusive setup, but what support are they being given in order for them to acquire what we are all advocating for, equity education, and an opportunity for all of them, and quality education for that matter.
Right.
So when we talk of inclusive education, we are not saying it's going to be blanket that we put all of them in one class and we teach them the same way and all that.
Yes.
But we are saying with support,
With
with
support.
adaptations,
Right.
with the resources. They can be inclusive, but for specific cases, where are we going to have them included? Because inclusive can be in education, in the community, and all other areas. So this is what we are opening our mind at and saying, let people come, we exchange ideas and see what is it we're talking about, inclusive education.
Inclusive education.
Yes.
Just to add on something of what you said,
Absolutely.
alongside the main conference, we'll have a children's conference because we also want to hear the voice of the children.
the children.
The voices. And I remember recently we had a meeting in KICD where some students were there from the special needs schools. And one of them talked so passionately, we don't need to be in purely exclusive schools. We need to feel like we are just normal children. And we'd want to be in the normal schools. And she was in one of the schools where with this inclusive education. And she was so passionate. She talked so passionately about how she likes being in that school because the students, other students make her feel part and parcel of a normal school. So we are thinking inclusive really is where you make these students feel they are not really peculiar in their own disabilities or whatever needs they have. They can mix with the rest and study normally.
Yes, integration is possible,
Yes.
Which then triggers my mind to head towards framework. And by framework, I'm looking at legislation.
Yes.
I'm looking at policy formulation. I'm looking at stakeholder engagement, because Timothy did mention the issue to do with children. In terms of these three areas, how are we faring to make sure that we're able to use policy formulation, legislation, and stakeholder engagement to create an enabling environment for this to happen, Grace?
Currently, we are aware our government is really working so hard to support special needs education. We already have, the Ministry of Education have already established a directorate of special needs education.
Yes.
And this is now a step ahead and a way that is going to ensure policies. Because when we have the directorate studying on its own, now they are able to come up with the policies, they are able to ensure that legislation have been done, they are able to follow up, because in our country I would say there is a bit of laxity when it comes to following up what is need to be done. But now with a specific directorate, they are able to follow up, they are able to ensure we have the appropriate policies that are addressing the needs of these persons with the special needs, and particularly those who are in schools. Because as much as we come to inclusive education, if there are no policies, if there are no legislation, then that means it may never pick up. But now with our Directorate of Special Needs Education, we are assured, or we have now hope that policies and legislations that have been there and maybe not implemented, now there is a body to follow up to ensure they are implemented, and there is also a body now to ensure more better policies now are being formulated with a focus on these children or persons with special needs.
Add on to that?
Yes, we already have a special needs education policy. In fact, it will be launched in April. And stakeholders have been involved all the way through and have participated in some of those meetings.
Yes.
So at least the ministry has taken a big step, a bold step, to look at the policy which has been in place since 2009. And they have had stakeholders meeting, we have had plenary sessions, and people have been given space to critique what is coming up, give ideas. And all the stakeholders in the area of special needs have been involved. And I'm sure that policy has taken care of all the areas we need to think about as far as special needs education is concerned. It will be officially launched in April.
In April.
In April, yes.
Good. That's something we shall all be looking forward to. But then again, if you're to compare the conference that's upcoming with the one that we had in 2016, there has been the deliberate attempt to enlarge the scope to East Africa this year. What's the inspiration behind that?
The inspiration was that the previous conference, much as we had said it was national, we had only Kenyans, we still found ourselves receiving visitors from the East African countries. And some even international visitors came on board when they saw it on our website. So this time we made it official. Let's welcome them. Let's give them an opportunity, and particularly to present papers, and more so to tell us what are the practices in their country, so that now we can share those ideas and borrow what is applicable for us and what is sustainable.
Exactly.
And it has been very encouraging, because so far we already have a number of people who have come up, they are going to present papers, and they're also making comments on our website. And they are really encouraging us, and we are feeling this was the best way and this was the way forward from the previous conference.
The reception is wide.
It is good.
And it is warm.
Yes.
Very well.
Quite an opportunity for us right here in Kenya. But then let's dissect the theme for this year. And it's strategies for enhancing access, equity, quality, and opportunities for all.
Yes.
Why settle on these four issues: access, equity, quality, and opportunities?
Well, that's a very good question. You know, one thing we have realized is that in most of the rural areas, anybody with a kid with disability, most of the parents just hide them. They don't want to bring them out in the open. They have a kind of a stigma. So, and again, when you're talking about access, it's in the Constitution. Everybody has a right for education.
Yes.
So we think in terms of access to anybody who can go to school. So we are focusing, do we have even enough space so that we can talk of access? Because it's a fundamental right for anybody to go to school. So that's why we are talking about access. We're talking about equity. Are there enough spaces, you know, for both boys and girls? We're talking about quality. This is not a point of just going to school. Are you getting quality education? And then the opportunities should be there. In fact, in the new policy, We are thinking in terms of all the way from early education, all the way to vocational and even university, because the opportunity should be there. There are people who have special needs, but they have not been given access to university education. Yet when they get that access, some of the most brilliant people are these people with special needs.
That's
but
true.
they were never given an opportunity to go to school or to access good education. So that's why we focused on all those particular 4 areas, because each of them is so critical.
Each of them is so critical.
Yeah, and we need to give everybody an opportunity to excel. It doesn't mean that if I'm hard of hearing, that I cannot excel in engineering. I should be given the opportunity.
Right.
Yeah, because there's no connection about hard of hearing and doing very well in engineering, for example. So I should get the opportunity.
Rightfully so.
Yes.
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
You'd like to add on
Yeah,
to
I
that,
would like
Grace?
to say something. As an institution that spearheads special needs education in this country, we carried out a national survey last year, which the results we will be launching them as we will be starting our upcoming conference. And from that survey, we realized that we have very many children out there. We went right into the interior, into the villages, and we discovered we have very many children out there who have not been placed in school, that's one, who the government is not even aware they exist.
Yeah.
That is true. And two, where the parents who may even be willing to take them to school, but it's like they don't know where to take them. And actually that prompted us, or that is what now made us think about now the upcoming conference, because we felt that we need to create more awareness. People out there may not be knowing that opportunities are there. However little they are there for these children with special needs. Some of the areas, again, we noticed that much as the schools are there, even professionals in different areas are not aware about these children with special needs. So again, that made us now think of ways of creating awareness. And we are happy this country has gone the devolution way.
Exactly.
With the counties now, and with good awareness, these counties now should come up and pick it up and take it as their responsibility. Within a particular county, who are these persons with special needs? What can the county do for them? This is now what we are saying. With this upcoming conference, we are creating more awareness for people to know about the opportunities, the rights of these children, the social justice, and again, we are kind of now advocating that the children with special needs or persons with special needs should all be given equal opportunities. And
Correct me if I'm wrong,
yes,
but when it comes to special needs and inclusive education, I observe a lot of affirmative action and a lot of activity around, at times, early childhood, primary school, and secondary school. But when it gets to tertiary and university, there seems to be a disconnect. Am I wrong in making that observation?
you are not wrong, if I may say that. And actually, we have also focused on the same, and that's why one of our sub-themes is addressing the transition, because we have also realized, and during that time we were carrying out the survey, we realized actually the transition rates mostly drop at even primary level.
Yes.
At that, secondary, we have few cases, come to tertiary, they reduce.
The higher you go, the fewer.
The fewer they are.
Yes.
And this is why now we were calling upon our stakeholders. What are the strategies are we going to use to ensure there is higher level of transition? That's one of our sub-themes. And as we are inviting even people from other countries, we would want to borrow from them. What strategies have they used to ensure that there is higher level of transition for persons with special needs?
Sure. Over to you, Timothy.
Yeah, I need to also add that I think the ministry is also keen about transition at the higher levels. And in fact, there's a directorate where they think in terms of vocational and training for people who go from Form 4. Maybe they are not able to go to the universities. So already the ministry is addressing on that particular issue in terms of transition, in terms of vocational training. There is a directorate already on that issue.
On that very issue.
Yes.
And equity. It's a very tricky subject because then it's relative on who is defining equity and the worldview that they are borrowing from and the school of thought that they are also coming from. So in terms of, because I can see it's included in your theme, in terms of having a good, all-inclusive conversation on equity, what are some of the things that you're going to give preference to?
Okay, when we come to addressing equity,
Yes.
as you have said, is a term that is never clear to everybody. But if I would give a very simple example of me and you,
Yes.
our heights are very different.
Sure.
I'm relatively short as compared to you. So if both of us stood here
Yes.
and we wanted to see the other side, there is a way somebody can help us see the other side. Very many ways. For example, somebody may think to bring a stool where I can stand and then come to your height so that both of us can see the other side. And somebody may thought even better, why don't we remove the barrier? So that both of them, at their own level, at their heights, they can clearly see the other side. So when you're talking of equity, this is where most people don't get it right. It is where we are saying, can we come up with ways, strategies that will enable these persons with special needs operate appropriately and also maximize their potentials at their own and where they are, without necessarily thinking if I bring or remove them from where they are, they will be able now to perform like others.
Yes.
So when we talk of equity, we are saying we would want people to come on board, our stakeholders, and tell us which are these strategies that will enable these persons with special needs operate and maximize their potentials like everybody else, without necessarily making them feel different, without necessarily making them feel discriminated, without necessarily making them segregated. But as I've said, if we remove the barrier,
Exactly.
you remain with your height, I'll remain with my height, but both of us will be able to see the other
side. Very well put, very well put. The issue on inclusive education then becomes the focus and point of view to move forward. Should not be based on novelty, but normalcy.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Yes. It's normal. We are here. This is it. We simply have to be, you know, a little bit sensitive to the needs and, as you said earlier, special setup. This conference having 3 objectives. The first being to exchange ideas on the current research activities on inclusive education, which by extension we have touched on during this discussion. But I would like to draw your attention to objective number 3. And that is a discussion on strategies and benefits of enhancing education for all. And I also saw somewhere in your concept note something in relation to best practice. What are those issues that we need to be very alive to that will guide us and lead us to best practice and inclusivity, Timothy?
Well, as I said, it's an international conference.
Yes.
So we're getting research papers, we get presentations from, I say, across the world. Now, it's after looking at those best practices from different countries of the world that we'll be able to see what can be adopted in this country. And you see, we're talking about normalcy. We're talking about access where everybody feels it's my right and I'm able to be guided throughout the policy, throughout the education system. So we're just going to look at what is a best practice, for example, in Australia. Can it be adopted to Kenya?
In Kenya,
What's the best practice in America? Can it be adopted in Kenya? What changes do we need to make in our system or in our policy so that we're able to adopt it for the country?
Exactly.
So we're just looking at what are the best practices from different parts of the world. We cannot adopt everything. But we might look at what will work in our country. What policy guidelines do we need to have in place? What could be even the monetary interventions from the ministry? And like right now, I would say we also thank the ministry because for students with special needs, they have an extra capitation compared to their normal students, normal in quotes. And you see, that's a step ahead for the government, which is looking at how do we make life easier for students with special needs. So we're just trying to look at, from all these other countries, is there something we can borrow to make inclusive education practical in this country and make it as easy as possible to adopt and have it there for everybody.
So this conference will basically touch on the what. Then later we will build the conversation on how. As soon as we're able to identify. The conference sub-themes, I can see they are 11 of them. But my attention is drawn to 2 very key ones, especially now that we're talking about curriculum development, curriculum reform. And there's been the issue of teacher education for inclusive education. How will this conversation be guided? What are we looking out for, Grace, when it comes to the issue of teacher education?
When it comes to the issue of teacher education, currently you are aware the government is on curriculum reforms.
Yes.
And we are really focusing on what we call competency-based curriculum. And when we talk of education for persons with special needs, all along I'd say that we have been trying to make it competency-based because we were trying to make sure they acquire skills. But this time the government have come up through KICD, that is the organization that deals with curriculum, in a way that we are going to come up with a curriculum that focuses on the needs of these learners. Listen, about 2 weeks ago, I participated in coming up with the framework of the teacher education, and so in special needs education, whereby we're looking at, as much as we're coming up with a new curriculum, we also have to think about our persons with special needs. They are those who will go through the actual regular curriculum the way it is, without much changes, because they can fit into it. They are those who may not follow that trade. And so we looked at the path, which path should they take? And our new curriculum has been subdivided into several levels.
Yes.
We start from the pre, then we come to the early, or what we're calling early grade education, then we come to the middle grade education, then we have the junior secondary, the senior secondary. But we're looking now at some of our learners with special needs who may not really go through that path. So where do they go? And we came up with a framework. And why we are coming up with that framework is because even teachers who are taking training, and especially in special needs, they will have to undertake the training in such a way that they are able to go through the same, almost the same pathway. What do I mean the same pathway? If we have early grade education, we go to have teachers who are trained in that early grade education.
Sure.
If we're going to have the middle, we go to have teachers who are trained in that. For our runners with special needs, there's somewhere the path branched off to vocational, and from vocational to technical. And those learners can go up to any level, but along that path.
Yes.
So the teachers also, when it comes to training, we also are going to have now teacher education going through the same path. We're going to have teachers who are trained in early grade education. We're also going to have teachers who are trained in vocational areas, so that as the runners divert to the path, do
Yes.
they have specialized teachers or teachers who are qualified to teach them or to take them through that path? So that's why when we're talking of curriculum reforms, special needs is fully well taken care of.
Yes.
And KISE, or Kenya Institute of Special Education, is spearheading that we have to be there to ensure that also they get those who cannot move in the regular path or pathways, they also have their pathway. And the teacher education also follows the same.
Absolutely.
And we are advocating that let not special needs teacher training now become a second thought, where after they have gone through the other training, like previously, they
Others,
come back.
it becomes others.
Others.
Yeah.
No, when we are advocating that, right from the beginning, let's have people who are passionate, who have that I can go straight to train for special needs because I have a passion to teach these runners with special needs. So as the pathway for education is changing, also for teacher training, we are advocating, like now Kenya Institute of Special Education, we train teachers who have already been trained. But we're saying we can start off with fresh graduates from secondary school who can come and
All
take
the way.
and go through the path. Those who will specialize in early grade teaching, those will go to immediate, those will go to the vocational, and they move with that path.
Absolutely.
That's all
Perfect.
we are.
Yes, Timothy.
I think I need to just add on what she has said. We, as an institute, we already sat down with some officials from the ministry and KICD, and we wrote a paper to the PS. Could we be allowed to admit Form 4 leavers straight and start giving them that training? I need to explain on that. And we also say that those teachers were already in the field, very many of them. As an institute, we have requested that can we be allowed to give refresher courses on special needs and inclusive education. And we're just waiting for an answer from the PS.
Right.
We're already spearheading that because we think there's a big gap.
Right.
And KISE, Kenya Institute of Special Education, can come in and assist in capping that hole.
Absolutely.
That gap.
And the blessing behind that is that it creates opportunities.
Yes.
It also creates employment
Yes.
and absorption of Form 4 leavers. It also cures the issue of transition from Form 4 to university
Yeah.
and affordability.
Yes.
Because again, they will be paid,
They will
isn't
be
it?
paid, yes.
They will be paid.
Definitely.
I cannot exhaust this conversation without looking at an issue that is very close to my heart. and it's one of those I had an opportunity to moderate during the 2016 conference, and that is the role of the media. We got quite some surprising responses when that issue was touched. I'd like to begin with you, Grace. In terms of, or as far as the role of the media in promotion of inclusive education is concerned, how are we faring? Are we taking the right steps? What exactly are we getting wrong?
I would say we really appreciate what the media is doing currently, and also we appreciate the program on Able Differently.
Yes.
Because these have created a lot of awareness. It has also encouraged persons out there with special needs to make them feel we are able in our own ways and we can come out and do something. So we really appreciate that. But again, we are saying the media can do more.
More.
There's still more for them to do because we need more people to be aware. We need them to create more awareness. We need them also to be directly involved with our lives of persons with special needs. And what do you mean by directly involved? Like we have seen media where they have programs for children, especially on Saturday mornings, that are very entertaining. They are very encouraging. Children really glue themselves onto the TV watching those programs because they are from children.
Yes.
But we haven't seen one for persons with special needs. And so we are saying, can they do more? Bring them on board. Let these students, they have a lot. They have a lot of potential. They can come out here and create awareness themselves. That's why in our conference, we already have the children's conference, running parallel with the other conference, because we want to encourage the students to bring out their voices. Let them be heard. Let no people say for them. We'd want them to be heard. And we're saying media can really support us on this. Because as much we are out there advocating, we rely so much on media because it gets to everybody, even where we cannot reach ourselves. But as for now, you are doing something, we really appreciate that.
Okay.
Yes.
Over to you, Timothy.
The role of the media cannot be overemphasized.
Sure.
I think you really have to be there to create awareness and pass the word that anybody with a special need is a member of this society and can participate in any issue in this society. So I think the role, the media, you still have a long way to go. I really appreciate, like my colleague says, really appreciate what has already been done. But there's still more to inform the world about the special needs and the integration we are looking for, the inclusiveness we are looking for in this country.
Because I strongly believe the conversation, especially when it comes to the role of the media, should really move and graduate from what the media is doing to more of how the media is doing it. Okay. Because then coverage of issues even to do with persons who have special needs is that it has been treated, it's like a special segment, a feature somewhere, you know, but what I'm saying is that it can make it to mainstream reportage. Story number one in the bulletin can be around issues to do with disability or special needs. Sorry, I beg your pardon. That word I need to forget. Special needs. It is special needs.
Yes.
When it comes to programming, as Grace says, what we see during programming is issues to do with information. But the role of the media is to inform, educate, and also entertain. So we should get infotainment, edutainment, and good programs around people with special needs. Over to you, Timothy.
In fact, if you look at one of our sub-themes, it's the role of the media.
Sure.
Because we're trying to find out what is the media doing now? What is it they can do more for this awareness? So that's why we take it so seriously that we thought it should be a sub-theme.
Yes.
We get to know in the other countries what is being done. In our country, what are we doing? What else can we do? And I like it. I like the way you've said, even entertainment.
That's true.
So that's why you find there's a sub-theme. We were trying to explore what else can the media do in this area of special needs.
And information is power.
Yes.
We all remember what happened during the burial of Nelson Mandela, when there was that service in South Africa, and we had someone who purported to use sign language.
Yes.
And the reaction that got, based on the fact that people had the information and the know-how to say that that is wrong.
Yes.
And that is what we should be bringing forth and closer to this country, to ensure that people, and well aware of even the terminologies to use. Here I am saying I need to forget disability and embrace special needs. Why am I saying that? It's because there is something behind that.
Yes.
So I'd like to give each and every one of you an opportunity for your final words. I'd like to begin with you, Grace, then I finish with the director.
Thank you. And before I forget, you have used a word and you've given an example of what happened in the burial of Nelson Mandela.
Yes.
And I would wish to make a request to the House media. As you also present people who are doing sign language interpretation, and I want to use your exact words, a feature somewhere. It is appearing like it is a feature somewhere at the corner. And for those people who would want to watch news and they have hearing impairment, they have to strain to see those signs being made because it's a small feature somewhere in the corner.
Yeah.
I wish the media houses would look into that. That we need something clear, something brought out so that these persons don't feel left out. They don't feel like we are down there. But if it's brought out clearly, let's see them do it.
Absolutely.
We would appreciate. Liz, I really appreciate and say thank you even for giving us this opportunity. And we believe the people watching us out there are aware we have this conference and they are all going to come and attend, and that we exchange ideas and create more awareness and also get information about the strategies to enhance inclusive education. Thank you.
You're welcome. Over to you, Timothy.
I want to appreciate the fact that you gave us this opportunity to come and be on air and spread this word.
You're welcome.
I want to make a passionate call to all the viewers that it's important that they come to the conference itself. It will be at Tusiu on 22nd and 23rd. Our chief guest will be the CS Minister of Education, Ambassador Amina Mohammed.
Yes.
She will be there. We'll use the same forum to officially launch the national survey on disabilities in Kenya, which was done by Kenya Institute of Special Education last year, and to be an opportunity to exchange ideas and share. I would request that people, Kenyans come in big numbers. It's good to be there to hear from the horse's mouth, other than being told this is what we discussed during that conference. So I would request that people really come up and participate and be able to hear from all the speakers we have invited. They're international speakers of repute.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome, and it has been my pleasure hosting you this morning and getting also appraised and up to speed with issues touching on special needs. And the conference, as Timothy said, the director said, it will be happening on the 22nd and the 23rd of March, that is Thursday and Friday, at the United States International University, USIU. And some of the issues that will be discussed are under the theme, or all issues to be discussed during that conference will be under the theme, Inclusive Education Strategies for Enhancing Access, Equity, Equality, and Opportunities for All. And this time around, the scope is wider, because it has integrated our brothers and sisters from the East African region. You do not want to miss this conference. It's very important, very timely, even as we grow the state of education in this country, looking at curriculum reform and also addressing some of the issues that have been discussed on this set and others that will be discussed during the conference. Thank you for coming. All the best in your present and future endeavors. God willing, maybe we will catch up on Thursday and Friday, 22nd and 23rd of this month. We're taking a break, but the show is not yet over. Safina Cheng is coming up next with an interview touching on social protection. You need to join her for that discussion. This is the only way to start your day. Good morning, Kenya, right here on the leading broadcaster KBC. It's Entertainment Thursday. Good morning.